Before we get into it, we actually feel compelled to offer a genuine content warning. If there are children in the audience, either at this live show or at home, one word, earmuffs. Truly, for those of you listening with family, we are going to give you a few seconds to turn off or skip ahead or have your kids leave the room. We mean it. And for everyone else, just a caution, we're going to be discussing allegations of serious and profoundly disturbing workplace sexual misconduct.
So with those caveats duly issued, let's proceed to the DEI of the Republican Party, which, as Melissa has told us, means the dicks, ex-husbands, and imbeciles.
All right, this latest DEI update concerns someone who we haven't talked about for a while. But if you are a longtime listener of the podcast, then you'll recall the salad days of 2022 when it seemed like we could not have an episode without mentioning Jud, with two Ds, Stone. Again, Jud with two D Stones. Do you remember him? Do you remember? Yeah. Now, if you're new to the pod, Jud with two D Stones is now 3D Jud, not just 2D, 3Ds, maybe even triple XDs Jud, because there's a lot to unpack here. And I've got to warn you, you may actually need to process some of this with a trained and licensed therapist.
All right, a brief biographical sketch. Jud with two Ds, Stone, is a former Texas Solicitor General, former Chief Counsel to Senator Ted Cruz, former law clerk to Justice Antonin Scalia and Judge Edith Jones of the Fifth Circuit. If Judge Jones sounds familiar, but you can't quite remember why, maybe it's because she is the judge who came for our friend, Commander Professor Steve Vladeck, at a FedSoc bonfire/conference last year because of Steve's mean tweets about the federal judiciary, which she had printed out and brought in a manila folder, like you do. That seemed pretty aggressive at the time, but in light of intervening developments, actually now seems downright quaint.
So back to Jud with two Ds, Stone. Stone was Ken Paxton's Solicitor General, and in that role defended some of Texas's cruelest policies, and he spearheaded some of its most insane litigation. So that included the litigation defending Texas's SB 8, the bounty hunter law that shut down abortion access in Texas before the Supreme Court overruled Roe in Dobbs.
Stone also defended Texas's SB 14, which was a law targeting healthcare for transgender individuals. He also led a lot of the litigation that Texas filed against the Biden administration, including challenging the Indian Child Welfare Act and a case that claimed that the Biden administration was required to retain the first Trump administration's so-called Remain in Mexico policy.
A lawsuit was filed last week, and it suggests, though, that this timeline is cursed in a way that even we genuinely could not have foreseen. And it involves a man who is alleged to have an asteroid/meteor fetish and who is aptly surnamed Stone.
So an individual who worked as an executive assistant at Stone's private law firm filed this lawsuit. And we are mostly just going to read verbatim from the complaint because no editorializing is remotely necessary. And we are only going to cover some of what is in this complaint. And you know how some things are NSFW? This is like NSFW times a billion.
All right, let's do it. According to the complaint, and this is actually just the warm-up, Jud Stone told the plaintiff when the firm was doing its impeachment work for Paxton, quote, "In this firm, there are no rules. You can say whatever slurs you want. For the untutored, this is known as viewpoint diversity." And that does appear to have been the practice.
Because, according to the complaint, at a lunch conducted at a beer bar, that is a real thing, a beer bar, Stone and his law partner, quote, ordered 4 shots, one for each person at the table, and asked plaintiff to take a shot. After taking one sip, plaintiff stated, "That is the most disgusting thing I have ever tasted." To which Jud Stone replied, I highly doubt that is the most disgusting thing that has ever been in your mouth. Exactly.
He also allegedly called the plaintiff white trash because she wore turquoise earrings.
Sir, how dare you? What you don't know is that those earrings are not turquoise. They're not lapis. They're cerulean.
They definitely got that one.
Yeah. So I purposefully wore a turquoise jacket today. Yeah. To stick it to Jud with Tootie's Stone. I hope he is triggered, as these men are so easily, and that he experiences the kind of emotional distress Donald Trump apparently felt while watching 60 Minutes, aka the tort of outrage.
All right, there's more. According to the complaint, as the impeachment proceedings wrapped up, Stone and the other people at the firm who had also previously been in the Texas AG office planned to return to the AG's office. But the suit alleges that when the Texas AG's office was informed of these allegations, Stone and his law firm partner were offered the chance to either resign voluntarily or be fired. So think about that. When you've lost Ken Paxton.
So they lost Ken Paxton and chose resignation, but according to the complaint, after Stone submitted his resignation letter, Brent Webster, the first assistant to the Texas Attorney General, wrote the following email.
I, of course, was designated to read this portion.
Thank you for your service, Leah.
Quote, 2 women who worked with Stone over the summer asked to meet with me. A female employee, through many tears, told me stories of Jud discussing sexual things with her, specifically regarding a disturbing sexual fantasy Jud had about me being violently anally raped by a cylindrical asteroid in front of my wife and children. According to this employee, Jud publicly described this in excruciating detail over a long period of time to a group of Texas Office of the Attorney General employees, Office of the Governor employees, federal judges, and other non-government employees at a table. The female employee conveyed she was so disgusted by the violent sexual nature of the discussion, she left the table to get away from it. When she came back, people at the table harassed her, joking that she, quote, couldn't handle people talking about dicks.
Talking about dicks or talking to dicks?
They had all had some shots.
Yeah, yeah, wrong preposition, I think, there. So the complaint continues, quote, eventually Jud was confronted with these allegations and promptly admitted that all of the allegations were true, but said it was okay because it was during their time at a private law firm.
We will just start out by saying, what the utter fuck?
I mean, that was and is my top line reaction to reading this complaint. On a more serious note, we obviously want to acknowledge the conduct the complaint describes is appalling, full stop. No one should be treated like that in a workplace, even someone who willingly works for Ken Paxton. But having a coworker describe graphic rape fantasies about you is actually outrageous.
And perhaps it's a total coincidence that a guy with violent rape fantasies would be arguing in favor of unleashing private bounty hunters to terrorize women and their doctors, or would be rearing to defend laws targeting transgender individuals. Actually, it's probably not a coincidence. These dudes are obsessed with genitalia and sex, and we also want to remind everyone that these are the people, their party, their ideological cohorts, who are screaming about how gay people shouldn't be allowed to marry because that's not natural and it will lead to polygamy. These are also the people who insist that drag queens can't participate in library story time because it will corrupt children. And according to this lawsuit, these same guys are sharing violent rape fantasies that they allegedly want children to witness with unnamed federal judges. Just let that sink in.